Join us and help us continue to support the many talented people of our community. Learn how to get your business highlighted on La Crosse Local. Go to lacrosselocal.com and click on Advertise. Join us at the La Crosse Winter Roots Festival, Saturday, February 11th at the La Crosse Center. We'll celebrate Wisconsin favorites in music, cuisine, local beer, and spirits. Grab tickets at lacrosselocal.com. We talk with Nicholas David, aka The Feelin'. We chat influences growing up, finding his voice, early albums like The Sacred Play of Life and Together We're Stronger. We also touch on his upcoming show at the La Crosse Center. See Nicholas David live as he hits the keys during Deece Productions' 12-year anniversary party, a tribute to the last Waltz, Saturday, November 26th. You can find more conversations, food reviews, live music, and events on our website, lacrosselocal.com. I'm Amy.
And I'm Brent.
And this is La Crosse Local.
The nickel in the waterfall. It's the days that go too fast. I realize you're the past behind me, and it's time I let you go.
So, just kind of starting out, what's some of your earliest memories of music? What was your kind of influences growing up?
Oh man, music in like Disney movies and cartoons, Sound of Music, like musicals that were watched. Family, my mom listened to a bunch of Motown and like the Doors and the Beatles. My dad was like Sam and Dave and some of that Motown stuff and like Bread, some of the harmonies like that. Well, like a big part of the influence was my grandfather, my dad's dad. He played the accordion, and we went to a lot of family events that he'd either be playing the accordion, or if they were at his house, he'd be by the piano. And I found myself either dancing or playing the piano, sometimes both. So he'd scoot down and I just play and jam with them. But yeah, dude, so it's in my blood and all around me.
So when was the first, what age did you start playing piano in that? When did that all kick off? Around that time since you've been born, or what? Come on.
Yeah, always kind of tinkling on the keys, but I mean, really stepping into it, I think like 6, 7, 8, around there. I'd say I also was like doing a bunch of sports too. So there was like kind of a conflict, not a conflict, but it'd be like, like I'd be doing something and I'd have to run to that or do that and then go to that. But sometimes it's like, oh, should we just stop and go all into sports but then when my mom's dad was passing around the time 8 or 9, when I was thinking about quitting after I just started, because I was like doing a lot, and my grandfather, when he was dying, he was like, play the piano, tell Nikki never to stop. That's been kind of echoing through too. So it's wild though, like my grandfather's, if why I do music is like this weird like angle of all these gears, like this big like functioning gear thing that like moves this machine that is music. Like they're huge like gears that like both of them, because my one grandfather was bedridden, so I'd play music for him through that in the basement, and he'd listen through the vents.
Wow.
And he loved it, and it was just this little break, and I just make stuff up. I didn't even know what I was doing, but I would just play for him. And so I don't know, music has been this wild vehicle, I guess you could say.
My experience with you, the first time seen you, I think it was probably 12, 15 years ago at Ed's in Winona.
Yeah.
So during that time, weren't you kind of coming into your own around that time, or were you all like you were playing in different bands? But when did you start actually singing?
I played piano for the longest time and then found out I could sing kind of around 10th grade. I was singing some Alice in Chains, and my mom walked by the room, that acoustic album, Jar of Flies.
Awesome.
I was singing along with it, and my mom was like, is that you singing? I was like, yeah. She's like, will you sing for me? I was like, no. Then she's like, oh, well, Nikki, I'm your mom. Will you sing for me? I was like, sure. If you turn around, and I'm going to shut the light off, and then I'll sing. So I was always kind of shy. I remember like my first thing was in 10th grade. I sang Close Every Door to Me from Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat. Wow. And I played, high school football, basketball, track and stuff, and been in front of people. But man, that was really something. Even, played piano recitals, but to be in front of people just singing with the instrument that's my voice and a microphone, that was wild. But and then I had since moved back from Colorado when you saw me. So that was around, I was just kind of coming back from Colorado. I played with the White Iron Band for a while. And then I was like stepping into like the Nicholas David, AKA the Feeling kind of vibe of that music from the heart for the heart thing. Trying to like play with, and I was able to, and I still am like play with bands, like a 4 or 5 piece band. And then it's like me on a piano, that's always kind of been like trying to put myself in those situations. I remember I just did a gig with Doug Christensen, awesome percussion player and drummer from the cities. And he's like, been around like Mango Jam, like pre-Big Woo, like study music stuff. But like, he's like, man, I remember we were doing one show when I just started to do what you're talking about. And I remember some insecurity and vulnerability in that, feeling like, wow, I'm on the bill with like these 4 or 5 piece bands and it's just me and a piano, instead of like looking at it like, wow, I'm on the bill with these 4 or 5 piece bands and it's me and a piano. Learning that, thing has been, and that's cool that you remember that. Like, it's been such a journey, like stepping into what we've been given. God gave us all gifts to use and to share, and can continue the act of creation.
Yeah.
If we actualize our gifts and then share them. So yeah, you saw me trying to share them in the beginning stages of learning how to share them in a way that was unique to my person.
Were you always, like in spirit, in some ways, like 100 years old, or?
Yeah. I honestly, dude, I kind of think so. Like, my mom jokes about, it's like, Nikki, you've had a girlfriend since preschool. Actually, you were dating twins. I say that because, like, I feel like that's a huge part of that life, is sharing it with someone, and I feel like I almost like remembered that at an early age, or one of my first dreams seriously was like stars, and then like pointing to like this ocean thing that I thought was Earth. Like, almost like it's like, oh yeah, that thing, let's go. I remember that. Kind of, I don't know. I feel like life is meant to be shared.
Sure.
I've always been kind of like blessed to have a foundation of faith, to like stand on, and I owe that to my parents and my grandparents. And as much as I've even tried to look in other spots, go to Catholic school, K through 8th grade, and, go to church every Sunday and, have that stuff in your face. It's like, oh, I want to see other versions of it. So you get invited to like Hindu temple and the Jewish temple and some other cool stuff, and Earth religion, Earth tribe stuff. Seeing just ways we try to express and search for the creator. It's always been super into that. I remember even like one of our first trips we took to Ohio with our neighbors in like the early 80s. I remember being on a boat with the priest, and it just talking about the priesthood. And he's like, wow, you seem pretty interested in God. I'm like, I am. He's like, you ever think about being a priest? I was like, kind of, but I really want to get married. So that's always it too, is I always knew that as much as, thirsty for, the spiritual stuff, thirsty for playing music, I've always been thirsty for having a family,
Sure.
And then even in the early days, I wanted to be a zookeeper really bad, equally as much as all those things. Still
awesome.
kind of do. That'd be sweet.
So around that time too, you had, like you mentioned, you had the Sacred Play of Life. You also had, the album Together We're Stronger, which I probably burnt a hole through. Listened to
I
that
can get you a new copy, dude.
A couple hundred times, a couple thousand
That's
times,
awesome.
probably. How was your, you're talking about transition and changes. You had the big thing with The Voice and, new albums, and you've been basically releasing music ongoing in some sense. How has your writing style changed? Is it something that's just kind of transitioning and changing, or something quick that comes to you right away, or how does that work?
My writing style, honestly, is just kind of, it's been the same as it always has. It's like, I listen, like, it's like, all of a sudden it's like, oh, here's a song, it's like, if I try to write something, it almost feels like fake or something. It's weird, like forced. It's like, it always just kind of happens. Like, the music happens, either the song, the words will come first and then the melody, or like some chords will come. I'll hear some chords and sometimes even, blessed with all of it at once, and they just like fall out at once. Like, I've just recently, like, there's been like 5 since like August, the end of August, they've just starting to come out. So I think it's just kind of a process of listening And then, like we were talking about, I just got asked to do this charity thing for this Christmas CD I've done in the past with some of the New Power Generation and some other stuff. And this is the dude, Phil Thompson. He puts it together. This will be, I think, the 14th year they've done it. And I think he's raised like $600,000 for like food shelter around Minnesota, which is pretty cool around this time.
Wow.
But like that music, we had a really short deadline. We had to get it in by like the 24th or something yesterday. And we had like a small window to do it. So we're like, I just was like, man, what song should we do? And thinking about it and playing it. So also that part of like, I feel like I thrive without trying to sound like, full of myself. It's because you asked me the question. I feel like I like in those environments of creativity where the studio stuff, like my buddy Dylan and we made so many records. He's the one we made together. We're Stronger with, and we've been brothers ever since that came out. And like we were laughing at it because we're like, wow, we're able to put together this tune in like 2.5 hours.
Wow.
And we're like, wow, it's done, and it sounds decent. Sounds decent. We're like, wow, this works. Like, and not trying to sound again conceited or anything, but I know other times that would take some other folks, a week or 2 weeks to do that. So like it's like the listening and being ready, and I think being blessed to play music, but also like, I feel like I am music. I don't like put it on, or it's not like I have like music clothes, like they are my clothes. Like I remember when I was playing with the Almond Kids, they were like, you guys have, get your stage clothes ready. I'm like, dude, these are my stage clothes. Like, again, man, we've been given gifts, and we got to use them or we lose them.
So speaking of that, you're also coming back to lacrosse again. I know you just played here recently too with Adam Gruel, but
dude, that was a hoot.
Was it a great show? That
dude's a gas, man. My cheeks hurt. Not only can that dude play and sing and put together a band of players, but like, man, he was hilarious. Like my cheeks like hurt from smiling. Like we did 2 sets, and when the show was done, I was like, man, I haven't like had a show like that where like my cheeks hurt from smiling. It was like awesome. Pure joy, man. It was killer, dude. It was Space Burritos.
Yeah, I got to talk to him and Charlie Barons before that show. So the dude seems like he's full of laughter. So get you going.
He is, dude. He's such a gas.
So Deece Productions, 12 years. I know you've played in numerous different
Speaking of
iterations.
Another fella, huh?
What's that?
Speaking of another fella.
Yeah, Cheech, Deece Production, 12-year anniversary. I believe you
played.
I
call him Chet.
Chet. I believe you played in the first iteration of the last Waltz about 12 years ago.
I was in a church at the Muse, right? I think it's called the Muse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're opening that show, but then you're going to be jumping in on that show as well, too, correct?
Yeah, dude. I'm going to be dusting off my old role as Dr. John.
What can people expect from your shows? Now, what have you been doing?
Been around a little bit, and these last couple of years have been really wild. Like we were over in Europe, supported the new record, and telling the story and selling out venues and getting write-ups and doing all the stuff we were told that continues the game, so to speak. And it was really wild. Like we were in Paris on a Tuesday where it was like practically sold out. I was like, wow, this is crazy. Then Belgium. And then we were in Belgium, and then they said they're closing the borders, and we had to go from like Belgium, drive to Amsterdam. So under that tunnel, fly to Russia, and then go back in time from Russia to New York to Michigan to Minnesota. And since that, it's been such a wild thing. I know I'm not unique. Like I know it's been interesting for all of us, this unfolding of whatever time we're in. And I think, what can people expect from that? I don't know. It's like, I got really quiet for a while just because I felt the world got really noisy during that time. And I was like, man, I don't want to make noise. Everyone's making so much noise.
Sure.
And when I started to do some shows again, my fans were coming up saying, Nick, where'd you go? Nick, where'd you go? Nick, so-and-so, I lost this person. And we were like, did we lose you too? I'm like, no, I got quiet, man. World got noisy. I didn't want to make more noise. And they're like, Nick, you don't make noise. You make music. And I forgot that. So I feel, what can they expect? I feel like I'm, remembering that, like, I'm not making noise, I'm making music from the heart, for the heart. And, I don't know, it's been like, even like last weekend with Adam, anytime we can get together now, I mean, it was always special. It was always sacred. But I feel like now more than ever, it's like what we do matters and it's important. And like, it's like we all create these ripples. And so it's like, what kind of ripples are we making? And I don't know, I just feel again that music and that vibration is healing. And I think people are looking for stuff that's not so, I don't know, man. It's just, I feel we're in such an interesting time. And for a while, it felt like it was wrong to make music because it felt like it was noise. But it's wild that like it takes going back out and doing that and being reminded. It's not just me making music, but it's the fans coming. It's like an exchange. It's not just one thing. It's not just one-sided. It's, what I'm kind of getting at?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, sharing in the experience each time, you go and see a live show.
Yeah. And that's been the thing. It's like anybody can kind of be in a band and do this thing, but it's like, we want to create this experience. So that's what they can, I mean, if they can do that, and I mean, there's going to be some stories, probably some laughs, maybe a little bit of polka, but not too much. But man, also just the appreciation for the opportunity,
Yeah.
Truly, it's like all these notes now, we go play music. It's like after having that taken away, like literally taken away. It was pretty wild for a long time. I mean, and it still kind of is, but it just makes every note that much sweeter.
And during that time also, for me at least, it's, we did some live shows here at our thing, but also just like, I think I watched more local music streamed and going to a show than I'd ever done in the past. Like it really gave me an opportunity to kind of dig into the local music scene. And some of my favorite bands now are, within 90 miles of La Crosse.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it's awesome. So what's coming up for you? You had some time kind of alone to kind of work on things. Is there new music coming out? Or what's happening?
Yeah. Connect with the family, that's a huge part of like this whole thing, man. I got 3 boys and a wife and the dog and lots of plants and a fish. And that time too is like, wow, I remember I paint and I draw. I used to do that. And I cook food too. So like we're working on a book, working on a new record, working on that Christmas stuff, like creating again, man, and excited for the other aspects of creation, not just music. Like working on this book has been super cool too, because people like are always like, oh, the lyrics. So we're doing like an illustrated lyric book with stuff. So they're just getting back to like remembering, like we were kind of saying before, remembering that it's not noise, it's music.
Absolutely. Well, dude, man, I'm pumped to see you. My brother is also playing in that show that night, so it's going to be rocking.
Oh, cool.
Down at La Crosse Center, November 26th. I'm super pumped. It was great talking to you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
La Crosse Local Podcast is a production of River Travel Media. Do you have an interview idea you'd like to share with us? Message us on Facebook at La Crosse Local. Find out more about us at lacrosselocal.com, and you can subscribe to the La Crosse Local Podcast on your favorite podcast app. If you like us, rate us 5 stars. We appreciate it.